Ja, der Gründermythos, der sagt, um vom Gründer zum CEO eines großen Tech-Konzerns zu werden, da braucht es eines, nämlich eine Garage. Eine solche war der erste Firmensitz von Microsoft. 1976 hat Steve Jobs in einer Garage den ersten Apple-Computer gebaut und auch Amazon und Google entstanden in einer Garage. Viele Millionen Dollar von Umsatz später und auch viele Mitarbeiter später ist es wahrscheinlich schwierig, diesen Spirit vom Anfang und den Mut auch beizubehalten. Und deswegen macht es schon Sinn, dass Microsoft sich die Garage tagtäglich vor Augen führt, nämlich mit dem weltweiten Innovationsprogramm The Microsoft Garage. Sie soll Konzernmitarbeiter ermutigen, neue Ideen auszuprobieren und auch alte zu hinterfragen. Und unser nächster Speaker trägt den schönen Titel Envisioneer. Er ist in der Microsoft Garage verantwortlich für Design und experimentelle Projekte. Er hat zum Beispiel die ersten Menüfonts für den ersten Macintosh-Computer designt. Außerdem war er einer der Erfinder für PDF und Acrobat. Und er gilt heute als führender Experte in Sachen Smart Information, also das Zusammenfließen von AI und AR, also künstlicher Intelligenz und Augmented Reality. Please welcome on stage Mike Pell.
Hi, my name is Mike Pell. As you just heard, I'm with the Microsoft Garage. What I'm here to talk to you today about is the future of what everybody in this room is doing. It's the future of content. It's the future of information. I just wrote a book that's called The Age of Smart Information. Today I'd like to share a little bit of a preview so we can get on the same page and work together to make this real. If you need to go, if you can't stay for the whole presentation, this is really the most important part. The fundamental nature of information, what we all consider information to be, is going to completely transform over the next several years. And the reason for that is the injection of artificial intelligence in what we call XR, augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, as a presentation layer to unlock all the different layers and the detail and the summary contained within everything that we create. What I found was everything that you create, everything that I consume, everything that we make together has multiple levels of detail. It's all just sitting there. It's waiting for us to unlock it. Right now, it's a very manual process. Very soon, because of artificial intelligence, machine learning, it'll be very automated. For example, we could take a very, very simple piece of text. This was meant as a warning. There was a lot of flooding in the States recently from hurricanes. Some people never leave their houses because they figure, oh, I've heard this before. I know they're saying there's going to be a storm surge. I know the water's going to rise. But they can't really picture exactly what it might mean to them. So sometimes they just ignore the warning. What we know is that from this simple piece of text that we all understand, there's a lot more to the story. So let's see if I can get this to play. Well, I'll have to come back to that video. The video that I want to show you is of stormwater rising to the level where it would be way over your head. When someone sees that, they see, through mixed reality in this particular case, they see the water level rising above their heads, above their first story of their house. It makes a connection. Just like you strive to make connections in everything that you do, whether it's with a piece of video, a film, a newspaper article, even a tweet, we all strive to make connections. The difficult part is that we never know exactly at what level to talk to people at, so we do it once. That's what needs to change. So just very quickly, the reason I'm talking to you about this is that I actually have a long history of working with mixed reality and now very recently with artificial intelligence, injecting information with some smarts, right, with some context. For me, I think that I was able to sort of put all this information into a book about the design of mixed reality called Envisioning Holograms. The new book that I'm coming out with, The Age of Smart Information, is really dealing with your future and my future. How we create, the tools we create, the platforms we create, and how people will later consume. As I was saying, I have a history of being able to sort of work on very early technologies from the earliest days of 3D and Acrobat to now the very future of what's happening with mixed reality. So what is smart information? Very simply for me, this is not smart information. Every time I travel, I'm at the airport, I park my car, I have to take a picture of my parking spot, or else I'll forget. That's not smart information. I had to do something to remember. I had to take a picture. Why couldn't my parking spot tell me? Right? It knows. It knows what the number is. It knows where it is. My phone, I've noticed recently, does want to tell me where I parked. That's a great example of using artificial intelligence to embed more information into a situation. This is just, a normal book, like any other book, but it doesn't have to be. Is this an example of smart information? Absolutely not. Is there more than one level here? Absolutely. When you read a book, you're conjuring up your mental model of what's happening. You're making a summary for yourself. You're sort of visualizing and picturing what's happening if there is no image to go with it. But is it smart? No. Is this smart information? Well, you know very well, right outside the door, there's some fantastic augmented reality displays. This disgusting, filthy street sign in New York City could easily be augmented to be more smart. It knows maybe the time of day where I'm going. I need to get home on the subway. It could easily light up and in the air in a projection sort of show me where I needed to go, which train, how long. But is it smart today? No, not at all. Is this smart information? Actually, I think it is. And I'd like to show you an example of what I believe the future of information and productivity will be like. So I'm just going to jump out here so we can do a quick demo. Let's see if we can get my browser to do this for me. This is a very, very, very stirring illustration of what the future of information will look like. This is a project called Existence. Oop, I'm offline. Okay, well, we'll come back to that. But just trust me, it looks a lot like this. Instead of information being locked within a document, locked within a spreadsheet, locked within a tweet, a movie, a video, information will actually be able to be not only around us, but part of us. This piece, which is a dance piece, Existence, is actually a great example of how you can think about information being unlocked from being inside these containers that we've dealt with for decades and decades. You don't necessarily have to use augmented reality. You don't have to necessarily use virtual reality. This could be something as simple as on your phone, in your ear, being projected into the room where you're standing. Information can't stay locked up anymore. The future of everything that we're doing is all about things being unlocked, the things that we know are in there, but are too difficult to pull out because it's a completely manual process right now. So going from a very simple state to being able to see information, being able to experience it, is where everything is moving, whether this is text or video, photographs, songs, it doesn't matter. The rooms, the places that we inhabit, will be filled with information, but not all the time. They'll be filled when we want them to be. They'll be filled when we ask for the information that we need. Sometimes the machine will provide it. It will know exactly, the context that we're in. But most of the time, we will ask, right? We'll still be in control of what information we see and don't see. The dystopian futures you see where information is painted all over the place won't actually happen. Here's a great example for all of us of what data could be like. Today, our data is trapped inside of ages-old charts and graphs and things that seem to make sense for quarterly sales numbers, but don't really tell the story in the way that they should. Data storytelling is a very popular, I would say, pastime, right? People try to tell stories with data, but it's difficult because we still leave all the hard work to people's imaginations. We have to conjure the mental models ourselves, when it should really be more like this. Information is dynamic and flowing. It's changing. The systems we live in, the cities that we inhabit, are teeming with life and data. The data is not sitting still. It shouldn't be represented that way. Smart information will help you make connections by showing you actually what's happening. Depending on where you are, if you're in a place where you can see it, this is a lot more like what information will be. Our data is no longer going to be just numbers. It'll be representations that help us understand, that help us see, to help us feel a connection, where perhaps that was all left to our own imaginations in the past. When you think about how much effort is being applied to data science, data mining, data analytics, and the result are dashboards that look like they're from 25 years ago, you know that we have a long way to go. But it's not going to take that long, because the people here, the people around the world, know that we have to get to this future. And we're going to start that by working together. But to do that, we have to invent some new constructs. We have to invent some new containers, some new platforms, some new ways of doing our business. And we'll do that. And artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the things that we collectively call XR, augmented reality, virtual reality, as a presentation layer will help us get there. Information is found everywhere, right? It's hiding. When we set information free, you'll notice that it actually does have multiple levels or it has an altitude. Each step on this is something that we already know exists. We just choose to not show it. So for example, the things that I call information, a document, a tweet, a photograph, a documentary video, the information itself is the form that I produced it in. But just above that, we know as people, we derive insight. Maybe the machine helps us with insight. Most of the time that comes from us. When we get very good at something, we develop the knowledge. We develop stories. That's how things become memorable, right? By telling stories. And finally, there's perhaps wisdom that comes from really, truly understanding something. Now, I didn't just make all this up, right? We all operate this way without even thinking about it. It just so happens that we're authoring things for one of these altitudes, or we're taking something that has been authored and applying it to that. In the not too distant future, with your help, we're going to be producing all of this automatically. Our platforms, our systems will allow us to get all of these different levels, any altitude that we need to be at, instantaneously. That includes digging down a level into the data layer, if we want to. Some people are numbers people. They want to do that. That's great. There's objects themselves, right? There's the actual bits. There's the things that all this content is made out of. All that's still there. We're not hiding that, obfuscating that, taking that away. But we're making it so that you ask for it. So for information, we notice that we're going to move from a very, what I'd like to call dead pixels, static representation of something, to being very dynamic. Things that are today quite fixed are going to be completely flexible, meaning that promise that that article that you wrote or that video that you made will be able to be poured into any different device, any different form factor, any different size, language, or speed will be real because the platform and the tools that we use will be able to do it on our behalf. We will no longer have to do that manually. Things that were caught in time and never updated after they were written or published will now be completely up to date without us even trying. Things that were isolated before will now be completely connected. All the content within will be connected. The references, the people, the places, the data. This is not something that we have to invent. We know how to do this. But again, it's quite manual today. Inside of information, the thing that makes it truly smart are three things. There's the data representation and the action. The data is the values, the bits. Representation is how we choose to share it with other people and have conversations about it. And the action is what we choose to do with it or not. Making no decision based on a piece of information is just as valid as having it do an action on our behalf. The three different parts to this are really being affected by three different subsystems. The AI part, for the most part, is affecting the data. Machine learning, deep learning, reinforcement learning, all act on the data to inject the right amount of intelligence. The representation that I've been talking about that I like to work in is augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality. And why is that? Because it's easier to get at the multiple levels, to make the connection, to have it be more emotional, more clear when we have more spaces to work in. And finally, the emotional component. Through reinforcement learning, right, through the actions that we take or not take, the systems will learn what affects us, what affects our colleagues, our family, our friends, people we don't know. We'll be better communicators because we put all these together. So the three different parts, AI, XR for representation, and EQ, the emotional component, will work together to create a new object. Sort of the multicolored part of this is what holds it together. And that's this new information object. These information objects will be generated by our systems. We don't have to do this anymore. We'll build the systems and tools that know how to do this. These will interconnect. They'll be swappable. There'll be modules. There'll be things that plug together and things you can take apart. Information will no longer be static, and multi-purpose is going to be the way that we all deal with information. It doesn't have to be just one thing anymore. So the system that we envision is quite large. It's not going to be an overnight thing, but we will start by creating better authoring tools. And my example, I think, will resonate with everyone here. If you were going to write an article about this show, about Munich Media Days, and maybe publish that on medium.com, just as an example, normally you would write that and you'd be done. Write the article, pull the pictures in, maybe have a few video clips, post it, maybe think of a few keywords, and for the most part, it's off, and people will consume and share and discuss it. Not too long from now, you'll be able to take that one article and have many things generated from that one particular piece of information that you first created. We'll be able to derive the tweet. We'll be able to have an Instagram post. We'll be able to create things that take the infographics out, that take the photos out, that take the video out, separate them, annotate them, share them, catalog them on your behalf. No longer do you have to just create one thing and then have to do all of this by hand. It turns out that's what the machines are really good for. Will they be right every time? Absolutely not. Do we have to teach them what's a good way to do this? Absolutely. Are we going to do that? Absolutely. Because when you have a future like this, where you create something once, and you can generate all of these things automatically with the systems that we all build together, that's where we get true benefit. I keep talking about altitudes, which is really one of the central points of what we're doing. The way that I like to consume information may be very different from you. I don't read very long passages anymore. I like to scan things. So I like my information to be in a scannable form. When I'm walking around in a city, I might want to hear it through my earbud. When I'm in the car, perhaps I want it to be mixed in with the other things that are happening. If I'm sitting on a train, maybe my mobile's fine. If I'm in a meeting with you, perhaps we can use a shared screen or a projection system. If I'm at home, why not use all the space I have at my disposal? Why do we have to make things that can only be consumed in one way? We don't, and we won't going forward. Smart information and the systems that we build for creating smart objects will allow us to do this type of thing. So from the common form, you'll get everything from the very highest metadata keywords all the way down to the true detail. For example, if you have a document, in the future, you can have everything that's related to it. You can have all the different levels of detail, all at your disposal. But you don't have to create them by hand. And that's really the point. From a storytelling perspective, and we're all storytellers to some degree, we're going to be able to create something that people can consume the way that they want to, which is having a conversation about it. We all like to have conversations about things. Sometimes we don't have enough time to do that, so we read it, we think about it, maybe share later. But we have to sort of move on from where we are today, right? We sort of stopped at this one-way narrative, and we should really be having discussions with information. Information should be having discussions with us. Did you understand when you read this? Is there something else that you would like to add? Why can't information be a conversational thing, just like maybe using your Alexa, maybe using your Apple Siri? Conversations with information will not be that sci-fi anymore. The platform itself is based on something that we kind of call the augmented reality cloud as one component. It's a way to put things in space and have them stay there so we remember. So when we enter a room, when we go to a new city, when we're in a particular part of our house, the things that we want are there. The information that we need is at our fingertips. The creation tools that we will make will be geared to doing this. It's not going to be the process where I have to learn something completely new. It'll just happen. And the best example that I've seen of this is when you're using your phone and you maybe, hop in your car, get on the train to go home, and it says, you'll be at your next stop in 23 minutes. I didn't ask my phone how long it was going to take me to get home. It told me. And it was actually pretty valuable. That's a great example of how our tools will be AI injected, AI powered. Really, the machine is good at the things that the people are not, and we're going to leverage that. The experience is actually going to be a lot more fun too. I find that we're all so busy these days, we often don't have time to truly explore, to truly learn about the things that we care about. But the format that we're using, the smart information objects allow exploration in a way that we haven't really allowed before. So people will become more curious. They will spend a little bit more time because the system will help you. The system will help you learn and explore, whereas today, it's really just sort of pushing things out for you and hoping that you spend enough time to figure it out. I'm fond of saying that with all of the power of virtual reality or mixed reality or augmented reality, this new display system, it's not about the beauty that you first see sometimes. It's really how things reveal themselves. It's being able to move between different levels of detail, right, at the different altitudes. That's truly interesting. A friend of mine, Charlie Fink, wrote a book called Charlie Fink's Metaverse, which explores this new world of augmented reality. And instead of just being a book, if you point your phone at it, the book tells you the story. People have done this before. This is a very interesting example of how to combine, the traditional narrative written with something that is very real, very dynamic, and very fun. You'll see more of that. Information spaces are also something that's starting to happen now. Information does not have to be a static article or a tweet. It can actually be something that you inhabit. Some very early research was done by Patty Mays at MIT decades ago. And now people are coming back around to this idea of information spaces. This is a piece done by Flow Interactive of Hamlet. With a virtual reality headset on, you can actually see this text sculpture. You can experience it in a completely different way. It can be art or it can be education. But these things are possible now. And injected with a little bit of artificial intelligence to know how you like to deal with these things, they actually become entertainment. This is a type sculpture by my colleague, Yoon Park. This is in a museum. For someone who loves typography, this is beautiful and new, right? This is information, but done for art's sake. There's whole new possibilities now. Smart information unlocks that. And finally, we'll find that instead of having to have menus and buttons and voice control, the information itself will be the interface. We'll finally evolve back to the way things were in the beginning. When I see something on a page, I know what to do with it. I want to highlight it, I highlight it. I read it, I read it. I want to share it, I share it. I don't have to learn an interface. Information is itself the way that you deal with things. Everything is direct manipulation. So gone are the days of having to figure out a UI system. With this new world, there'll be some interesting experiments. This is one that's a brilliant piece of work. It's sort of pulling an interface off, from a wearable perspective off of yourself. I'm not a big fan of this because this is, to me, UI, user interface, rather than content. So I'm just pointing this out. I love it because it's a brilliant piece of technology, but it's not what we want. What we want is the pure information. We want just the words and the pictures and the thoughts and the motion and the feeling, not the interface. So really, this kind of comes down to everything in the world, anything in the world, being able to tell its own story. Machine learning, reinforcement learning, artificial intelligence, deep learning, they will all power the ability for things, for information to tell their own story. Do you think that can happen? I do, and it will, because we'll do it together. So welcome to the age of smart information. Thank you.